Alright, so I just wanted to make a quick little video because I've recently developed a pretty strong method to teach the subjunctive to newer Spanish learners who are having a harder time with the subjunctive. If you don't know, I'm certified stamp test certified bilingual in both English and Spanish, and I got there in a little over 2 years. About a year of that was just hard, dedicated work, and I used this trick to help sort of explain like what the subjunctive is to myself, right? This is sort of how I realized um, how the subjunctive works, and this method might not work for everyone, just how other methods don't always work for everyone else, but I think if we just like had some visual representation, I think that would like oftentimes help people. So, welcome to the Isle of Lang. This is a quick little MS Paint drawing that I threw up here. It's pretty epic. We got this island, which is the main island, the Isle of Lang, is called the Isle of Stability. And then out here we got the ocean surrounding it, and this is called the Sea of Uncertainty. We got the House of Imperative, we got the three mounds of the indicative, and we got the prairie in between, which is just, general, the vocabulary of the language, right? So in English, we have moods as well. The difference is that we don't change words to reflect mood. So what is a mood? Well, a mood in a language is essentially the type of the type of mood or the type of not connotative meaning, but sort of the meaning and the tone that you can get by reading between the words. What you would have to do in English would be read between the words, since we don't change words for the subjunctive mood or the indicative mood, right? And all of these are just fancy names for the indicative mood equals this island of stability. Basically, everything that is actually happening and is true or is believed to be true, right? Imagination, thoughts, beliefs, everything under the sun, right? The imperative mood is just everything to do with commands, and the subjunctive mood basically just everything to do with uncertainty or emotions, everything that is subjective to the subject of the sentence, right? It's not really on this island of indicative stability, right? So that's why I have labeled here the past stone, the present stone, and I'm not even going to draw future because it's going to look horrible. So past, present, and future stones. So on this big part of stability right here on the Isle of Stability, you have the indicative, which is mainly comprised of three parts. This is the past, whatever form of the past it is, the present, whatever form of present it is, and the future, and whatever form of the future it is, right? It doesn't matter if we're talking about the past freaking perfect, like the imperfect freaking whatever it's called, plus pluamperfect, or whatever it's called, right? Everything that happened in the past is still here on the same island, right? And this is stuff like words like yo podía, yo era, no me fui, no fui yo, ¿quién fue? De verdad? It's just like stuff like that. Stuff that already happened in the past or was happening in the past or something you used to do, right? Como se podía ver el mar para allá. And then we have the present, which is the most used part of land here in the Isle of Lang. This is just statements, right? Like every day, how we talk, right? Yo hablo español. Tú hablas español. Él habla español. Just stuff like that. Te doy algo. I'm giving you something, right? It's just everything that's happening in the moment, or it can even be beliefs. Like, creo que sopa es la comida más buena del mundo, right? And you didn't have to use the subjunctive there because it's a belief. It's something that you're saying in this present moment, I think this is true, so it is, right? And then the future, which is not as fleshed out in terms of like grass as the present or the past, but it's still there, right? Because we can still talk about it using the confines of our little isle of stability here, right? Stuff like nos veremos, te cocinaré algo, something like that, right? Just something that'll happen in the future, definitely way down the line, that we're expressing as an indicative thing, right? As indicative equal, it's going to happen whether we believe it or not, right? Now, I have the second mood, which is the imperative mood. So the imperative mood is kind of a lone wolf out in this peninsula here, right? He he likes to set his borders pretty strongly, right? You can only enter into the house of imperative as long as you meet his demands, right? So down here in the south of the island, you have to meet all these demands and these requirements to cross this border until you can get to the Isle of Imperative. I'm not even going to draw a border on the sea because that's how serious it is, right? So that's all the imperative is. It's just anytime you see a word like um no me hables, right? Something that looks sort of conjugated weirdly, or the little words like ten cuidado, right? Though that's the imperative, right? It's demanding. And then you can remember the final mood in Spanish, which is the subjunctive mood, by these two oceans up here. So I'm gonna draw a little like purple line right here to separate the oceans. So this side I'm gonna label the S ocean, and this is the IS ocean. So the IS and the S stand for subjunctive and then imperfect subjunctive. So don't freak out. You might be asking like, oh, what there's two subjunctives. What don't even worry about it. It's something that you can learn in one day. I can give you a sheet and you could figure out how to conjugate it, right? The the issue here is not how to conjugate into the subjunctive and the imperfect subjunctive. The issue is when do we use it and how can we interpret it so that like it gets ingrained in our brains so we don't even have to think about it, right? How can we get one step closer to Spanish being just a second language? And then you'll have to learn about how to use this ocean of stability here, right? And I call it an ocean because the subjunctive is not confined to a set time frame. The only limit it has is the present, right? Anytime you're talking about a wish or a desire or emotion or a doubt or an expression, anything that is based on your wishes or your desires, or you're asking someone else if they wish something or they want something, then on the left, it's going to use the imperfect subjunctive, and on the right, it's going to use the subjunctive. And the normal subjunctive just tells us about stuff like, oh, do you want me to bring you something? Do you want me to talk with your dad? Do you want to drink something with me? The world do you wish that the world is a better place in the future, right? Anything that talks about from the present, as in like you want it to, it can happen either now or literally in trillions and trillions of years from now, right? It doesn't even matter. It's just a statement that any point, talks about any point in this ocean that does not use the future tense conjugations, right? So in English, we often use future tense conjugations, but in Spanish, it's just the subjunctive, right? So, for example, dudo que dudo dudo que le gustemos, right? Dudo que le gustemos. And what I just said is I doubt that he likes us, but that could be talking about if we're meeting someone now, or we're meeting someone in 10 years, or meeting someone in 5 seconds, or meeting someone in 100 years, right? It doesn't matter. It's just based off of whatever the speaker's believing, which is yo dudo que le gustemos, right? So you have to have that. And then on the second side, you can think about the imperfect subjunctive. This has a better connection to English because we actually do it in English, and I'll show you here, right? So all the imperfect subjunctive is basically just conjugating for desires that could have happened, again, like the subjunctive, a billion years ago or literally 2 seconds ago, right? It's it's the statements like, I wish you had something, or if only you had something, or if only you were, right? If I were you. Now, Spanish does this too, and they have their whole system of conjugations, but what we only need to worry about is how to use it, right? So it's the exact same triggers as subjunctive, right? Think of your dudo que, um, es probable que, es importante que, es muy impresionante que, right? But then you're just talking in the past. So era muy impresionante. Yo dudaba que, yeah, right. No era muy impresionante. No era muy, no, muy básico, right? Anything that's talking about the past, you can use this as a trigger, or just even using it as the present, right? Because if you think about English, when we say if I were you, that is using the imperfect subjunctive. So if you take a look at this chart right here, what I've drawn is the English conjugation chart for the verb to be. So I'm just going to point out the singular pronouns here. We have I was, you were, and he was. So if you think about that phrase that I've been talking about a lot, which is if I were you, where are we getting that were from? Because I does not conjugate the verb to be in the past tense. It's I was, right? You always say, oh, I was there, I was here, I was over there, I was with whoever, right? You don't say I were over there. But we're talking about the subjunctive. So in this subjunctive, it is I were, because what that expresses is a mode of uncertainty, right? A mode of wishes and desires. It's not indicative. Saying I were also kind of sounds funny, right? But to us, it's just fanciful wordplay that means something. And that's all the subjunctive is in Spanish, is it's just conjugations that to a Spanish speaker, they'll hear that and they'll know exactly the tone that you're trying to create or exactly what your beliefs are on a subject. And that's what you have to know, right? So this side, the left ocean, will encapsulate everything about the past. If you had something, if I were you, if you were there, right? The subjunctive over here in the right ocean will just encapsulate everything that you wish to happen in the future, right? You're daydreaming about something. Oh, deseo que haya deseo que no haya ni un problema más, right? So stuff like that. And that is pretty much all that you need to know about the subjunctive, I would say. I hope you found this useful. This is kind of just like a ramble sesh. Um, uh,